Kendrick Lamar is one of the most famous artists in the world. He is known not just for his music, but also for being humble and caring. One day, he decided to visit a luxury restaurant. This restaurant was very popular, and it was where rich and famous people often went. The place was beautiful, with shining lights, soft music, and waiters dressed in neat uniforms. When Kendrick entered, he did not wear fancy clothes. Instead, he dressed simply and did not try to show off. He wanted to enjoy his meal quietly, without drawing attention to himself. However, the atmosphere of the restaurant was filled with a sense of pride, where appearances mattered a lot. As Kendrick walked in, some people in the restaurant looked at him. They were curious but did not recognize him right away because of his simple appearance. Meanwhile, the waiters were busy serving the other guests who seemed more important. What Kendrick did not know was that this visit would soon take an unexpected turn. As Kendrick settled into his seat, a waiter approached him. This waiter was confident and looked around the room, greeting other guests with smiles. However, when he saw Kendrick, his attitude quickly changed. He didn't smile or greet Kendrick warmly. Instead, his tone was cold and distant, as if Kendrick didn't belong there. The waiter assumed that Kendrick, dressed simply, couldn't be an important guest. Without much courtesy, he handed Kendrick the menu and walked away without offering further assistance. Kendrick noticed the behavior but didn't say anything. He stayed calm and focused on the menu in front of him. Meanwhile, the waiter returned to serve other tables, treating the guests with more respect. He chatted politely with them, even laughing and joking. It was clear that the waiter judged Kendrick based on his appearance, thinking he was an ordinary person and not someone worth his attention. But what the waiter didn't realize was that many people in the restaurant had started to notice Kendrick. Some whispered among themselves, recognizing him as the famous rapper. The tension in the room grew, but Kendrick stayed quiet, waiting for his meal and observing the situation. This was just the beginning of what would become a shocking lesson for the waiter and everyone in the restaurant. And before we continue, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more inspiring stories like this one. Kendrick sat quietly at his table, observing the waiter's behavior closely. Every time the waiter passed by, he avoided looking at Kendrick, focusing entirely on other guests who appeared wealthier and more glamorous. The waiter moved with energy and confidence when serving those tables, offering smiles, engaging in polite conversations, and even cracking jokes. But when it came to Kendrick, his demeanor completely changed. He barely acknowledged him and acted as if Kendrick was invisible. When Kendrick politely raised his hand to get the waiter's attention, the response was dismissive. The waiter gave brief, uninterested answers and left without waiting to hear Kendrick's full request. It was clear that the waiter had judged Kendrick based on his simple clothes and quiet presence, assuming he didn't belong in such a luxurious setting. Kendrick noticed the difference in treatment but chose to stay calm and composed, maintaining his usual grace under pressure. Around the restaurant, other diners began to notice the situation. A few whispered among themselves, exchanging glances at Kendrick's table. Some shook their heads in quiet disapproval, uncomfortable with how the waiter was treating him. At the same time, some guests started to recognize Kendrick. As they whispered his name, their eyes lit up with realization. However, nobody approached him just yet, as they were curious to see how the situation would unfold. Kendrick, unfazed by the poor service, patiently waited for his meal. He didn't show any signs of frustration or irritation. Instead, he focused on his surroundings, observing the restaurant and the people in it. His calmness stood out, especially in a situation where most people might have reacted differently. This silent strength and humility left a strong impression on the guests who were paying attention. When the meal finally arrived, the waiter's attitude didn't improve. He placed Kendrick's plate on the table with an air of indifference, making no effort to be polite. There was no greeting, no eye contact, and no sign of the warm hospitality that other tables received. It was almost as if the waiter wanted to make it clear that Kendrick didn't deserve the same respect as the other customers. Meanwhile, the whispers in the restaurant grew louder. More and more guests began to realize who Kendrick was. The atmosphere in the room shifted as people started pointing discreetly, their excitement bubbling beneath the surface. Phones appeared in a few hands, ready to capture the moment, though most guests were still hesitant to approach Kendrick. The energy in the restaurant became electric as the realization of his presence spread. Despite the growing attention, Kendrick continued eating quietly. He didn't react to the whispers or the poor treatment he had received. His calm demeanor left the guests admiring him even more. Many of them were struck by the contrast between Kendrick's humility and the waiter's rudeness. It was clear to everyone watching that Kendrick's quiet strength was a reflection of his character. As the whispers reached a peak, the waiter finally noticed something was off. He saw people looking toward Kendrick and whispering excitedly. Confused, he began to pay more attention, but he still didn't understand what was happening. Little did he know that the truth about Kendrick's identity was spreading across the room, and everything was about to change. Stay tuned to find out how the situation unfolded. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one. The whispers in the restaurant grew louder, filling the air with a sense of curiosity and excitement. Many of the guests had now recognized Kendrick Lamar, the world-famous rapper sitting quietly at his table. Phones were discreetly pulled out, and some diners started snapping pictures while others simply stared in awe. The energy in the room began to shift, and all eyes were on Kendrick. The restaurant manager, noticing the growing buzz, approached a nearby table to ask what was going on. One of the guests informed him that the man being ignored by the waiter was none other than Kendrick Lamar. The manager's expression immediately changed. Shocked and embarrassed, he hurried across the room to Kendrick's table. His voice was filled with respect as he greeted Kendrick and apologized profusely for the poor service he had received. Kendrick, as always, remained calm. He acknowledged the manager's apology with a polite nod and a few quiet words. The scene caught the attention of the waiter, who stood frozen a few tables away, watching the interaction with wide eyes. He couldn't believe the manager's sudden deference toward Kendrick, and confusion spread across his face. Then he overheard a guest nearby saying, "That's Kendrick Lamar, the rapper." The realization hit him like a lightning bolt. The waiter's face turned pale as the weight of his mistake began to sink in. He had dismissed and mistreated one of the most influential and respected figures in the world, simply because of his modest appearance. His hands trembled as he struggled to keep his composure, but the growing attention in the room made it impossible to ignore his guilt. Meanwhile, the manager continued speaking to Kendrick, apologizing once again and assuring him that this was not the standard of service they upheld at the restaurant. Other diners watched closely, some nodding in agreement with the manager's words, while others whispered among themselves about how gracious Kendrick was being despite everything. Kendrick looked around the room, his calm demeanor making an even bigger impression on everyone. Instead of showing anger or frustration, he simply smiled and thanked the manager for addressing the situation. His humility and grace left the other diners in awe. Even those who hadn't recognized him initially were now captivated by how he handled the moment with such poise. The tension in the restaurant was almost palpable. The waiter, realizing the gravity of his actions, slowly approached the table, his head hanging low. He opened his mouth to apologize, but struggled to find the words. Before he could speak, Kendrick turned to him with a kind but firm expression. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The turning point of the story had arrived and the lesson was becoming clear. Stay tuned as the story unfolds, and don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe for more inspiring and thought-provoking stories. The restaurant was silent as the waiter stood before Kendrick, his head bowed in shame. He struggled to form the words to apologize, his voice shaking as he finally began. "I'm so sorry, sir," he said softly. The other diners watched closely, their eyes fixed on Kendrick and the waiter. The tension in the room was palpable. Kendrick looked at the waiter with a calm but serious expression. He didn't interrupt or raise his voice, allowing the waiter to continue. The manager stood nearby, clearly uncomfortable but prepared to intervene if needed. The guests, too, waited to see how Kendrick would respond. They had witnessed his grace and patience up to this point and were eager to see if he would handle this moment in the same way. When the waiter finished apologizing, Kendrick finally spoke. His tone was steady and kind, but his words carried a powerful message. "Respect isn't about how someone looks or what they wear," he said, addressing the waiter directly. "It's about treating everyone with dignity, no matter who they are." His words hung in the air, echoing across the room. The waiter nodded silently, tears forming in his eyes as the weight of Kendrick's words settled in. The manager stepped forward, apologizing once again on behalf of the restaurant. He assured Kendrick that they would investigate the situation thoroughly and take appropriate action. Kendrick nodded, acknowledging the manager's sincerity. He didn't demand special treatment or escalate the situation, further proving his humility and character. As the scene unfolded, many diners began recording the moment. Videos of Kendrick's response quickly started circulating online, capturing his calm demeanor and the lesson he delivered. Some guests even approached Kendrick afterward, thanking him for the way he handled the situation. They expressed their admiration for his humility and the powerful message he had shared. The waiter, overwhelmed with guilt, was escorted to the back of the restaurant by the manager. The guests whispered among themselves, discussing the incident and praising Kendrick for his composure. Many of them agreed that the waiter's actions had revealed a deeper issue, one that Kendrick had addressed with grace and wisdom. Kendrick finished his meal quietly, declining any offers for special treatment from the staff. He remained focused on the bigger picture, using the moment to inspire change rather than draw attention to himself. As he prepared to leave, the atmosphere in the restaurant had completely shifted. What began as an uncomfortable and tense situation had turned into a profound and memorable experience for everyone present. The fallout of this incident was only just beginning. Videos of the event would soon go viral, sparking widespread discussions about respect, humility, and the importance of treating everyone equally. Stay tuned for how this story continued to impact people far beyond the walls of the restaurant. And if you're finding this story as inspiring as we do, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories like this. The events of the evening left a lasting impact, but the story was far from over. The restaurant staff gathered later that night to address the situation. The manager, visibly shaken by the incident, called an emergency meeting to discuss the behavior of the waiter. It became evident that this wasn't the first time the waiter had displayed discriminatory actions. Several employees came forward with similar stories of his rude and dismissive behavior toward customers who didn't fit a certain image. The manager, determined to uphold the restaurant's reputation, made the difficult decision to terminate the waiter's employment. He explained to the staff that such behavior was unacceptable and went against the values of respect and equality that the restaurant aimed to promote. This decision was a clear message to everyone that prejudice and discrimination would not be tolerated. Meanwhile, videos of the incident featuring Kendrick Lamar's calm and gracious response had gone viral on social media. People across the world watched as Kendrick turned a moment of disrespect into an opportunity to teach kindness and humility. The overwhelming response led to widespread discussions about the importance of equality and respect in all industries, particularly in the service sector. The restaurant, facing mounting public scrutiny, issued a formal apology to Kendrick. They acknowledged the failure of their staff member and promised to implement anti-racism and sensitivity training for all employees. They also committed to creating a more inclusive and respectful environment for both their customers and their team. For the waiter, the consequences were profound. Losing his job was only the beginning. As the story spread, his actions became widely criticized, and he faced backlash from the public. This moment served as a harsh but necessary wake-up call, forcing him to reflect on his behavior and the harm it caused. While his future was uncertain, it was clear that he had a long way to go to rebuild trust and respect. Kendrick, on the other hand, continued to inspire people with his grace and composure. He refrained from criticizing the restaurant publicly, instead using the experience to advocate for kindness and understanding. His ability to turn a negative moment into a positive message resonated deeply with fans and viewers around the globe. The consequences of the waiter's actions extended far beyond the walls of the restaurant. They sparked conversations about prejudice, the importance of treating everyone equally, and how one person's behavior can reflect larger societal issues. Kendrick's response reminded people that even in moments of adversity, there is always an opportunity to create change and spread a message of hope. As this story continues to inspire, make sure to like this video, share it with those who need to hear this message, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that leave a lasting impact. The events in the restaurant didn't stay confined to its walls. Videos capturing Kendrick Lamar's calm and composed response began circulating across social media platforms within hours. Clips of him gracefully handling the waiter's apology and delivering a powerful message about respect and equality went viral. People from all corners of the world shared the videos, praising Kendrick's humility and strength in the face of adversity. The incident sparked widespread outrage against the blatant discrimination Kendrick faced. Many called for changes in the service industry, emphasizing the need for respect and dignity toward all customers. The story struck a chord with countless viewers, inspiring them to reflect on their own behavior and biases. Fans and activists flooded social media with messages of support for Kendrick, applauding the way he turned a negative situation into a moment of empowerment. His ability to remain calm and deliver an impactful lesson resonated deeply, proving once again why he is admired far beyond his music. If this story has inspired you, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more powerful narratives that challenge and uplift. Following the viral incident, Kendrick Lamar released a heartfelt public statement. In his message, he emphasized the importance of treating everyone with dignity, regardless of their appearance, status, or background. Kendrick spoke passionately about the need for equality and respect, urging people to reflect on how their actions affect others. He called on businesses to adopt fair practices and train their employees to combat prejudice in all its forms. Kendrick highlighted that true success isn't just about profits, but about creating inclusive environments where everyone feels valued and respected. His words resonated deeply with audiences worldwide, sparking conversations about how small acts of respect can create significant change. Kendrick's ability to turn a personal experience into a universal lesson reminded people of the power of humility and kindness. If you believe in Kendrick's message, don't forget to like this video, share it widely, and subscribe for more stories that inspire action and change. This story is more than just a moment of tension in a restaurant. It's a powerful reminder of the values we should all uphold. Kendrick Lamar's calm and gracious response teaches us that humility and respect can turn even the most uncomfortable situations into opportunities for growth and understanding. His ability to stand against discrimination without anger or hostility left a lasting impression on everyone who witnessed it. The lesson is clear. How we treat others defines who we are. It doesn't matter what someone looks like or where they come from. Everyone deserves dignity and respect. By choosing kindness over judgment, we can create a better world where fairness and empathy are the norm. As you reflect on this story, ask yourself how you can make a difference in your daily life. Small actions like treating others with kindness or speaking out against prejudice can create ripples of change. Kendrick's story challenges us all to be better, to lead with humility, and to stand up for what's right. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more content that inspires and uplifts. Together, we can spread the message of equality and respect for all.